the week of opening day. Less than, well, if I got to do my math correctly, today is Sunday, opening day is Thursday. So that's definitely less than a week away. That much math I can do as we welcome you to the Queen's Connection episode number 62. So very fitting episode 62, 1962, the first year of the New York Mets. Anyway, I am your host, Andrew Patton, joined by the co-host Corney Hogavine, who's already very impressed with today's open. Corney, the spring is coming down as of when we are recording this. Just two more spring training games left in the spring training season. So, like I said, opening day is just on the horizon.
Yeah, excited for that. Awesome opening. I didn't know you were that good in math. I thought you were way worse. So good to see that you have some smarts in yourself. So yeah, well, that's great to see. Good job, Andrew.
You know when you have like something in your head, like you got planned out, and then you go to say it, and you just can't put the words together. That was just what happened. But that happens to me quite often, as you know. So this should not be a shock to anyone who knows me personally, or even people that have listened to the previous 61 episodes of this podcast. But like we're talking about, opening day is just around the corner, and there's a lot of excitement about this team for good reason. And there's some other things that get us excited as the Mets nerds that we like to consider ourselves, and we'll dive into all of that today. Roster battles have been uh, not officially made; they haven't officially declared winners, but it seems like all the some of the transactions that have been made over the last couple of days have determined the winners, and we will certainly get into that. Also, some people who are going to make this opening day roster could be having their major league debuts, and I think that's a really good place to start because obviously, just a week or two ago, Francisco Alvarez has his injury. So obviously, we know Luis Torrens will come and be the starting catcher to begin the season, but it opened up a competition for the backup spot. There's Jackson Reitz, who they signed on a minor league deal. There's Chris Williams, who also signed a minor league deal, and there were some guys that were already in house, like a guy that we've talked about numerous times on this podcast, Hayden Senger. And it certainly seems like Hayden Senger is going to be the opening day backup catcher for the New York Mets. And there's been some discussions between you and I in our chat that maybe the Mets would look for a guy that was in a similar spot to where Luis Torrens was last year, where he was maybe the third or fourth guy on the depth chart who might have had an opt out, and they might go that route. But at least from reading between the lines and whatnot, like we talked about with some of the roster transactions over the last 48 hours, it seems like Hayden Sanger is going to get the first crack at being the backup catcher, and well deserved, in my opinion. The guy is a tremendous defender, as we've talked about on this podcast, and just to maybe for to calm people's nerves about, well, maybe he's not this great offensive player. Well, he went deep yesterday in their game against the Astro or the Nationals, so maybe that calms the people's nerves. But a 24th round pick in 2018, they don't even have 24 rounds of the draft anymore. He was the 710th overall pick out of Miami of Ohio, and like I talked to you about it, the guy's a grinder. He survived numerous different regimes. Like he was just Sandy Alderson was still running the show when he was drafted. So that's how long ago Hayden Sanger was drafted. 27 years old, um, and just his just a great story. I think whether he plays a whole lot, I don't know, but no, it's a great story and a guy that's grinded through the minors, and he was hanging around the team last year during the postseason. So he's familiar with the guys and whatnot, and no, just really happy for Hayden Sanger. It's very well deserved.
Well, I don't have to add anything to that. No, great. I think the Mets made the right decision there with the options they have in house. Hey, if you look at what probably is going to happen, I think we're going to see Luis Torrens obviously a lot of the time, maybe once or twice a week. We see Hayden Singer depending on the schedule we have. Um, And for that role, you need a good defender. And I think this spring showed that Hayden Senger is the best defender out of the three. I think we were already aware that Hayden Senger was probably the best defender out of the three guys. And I think we also said it in the previous podcast that defense is for us the main thing at that backup catcher spot. Um, he showed it. He did well. He even got a little bit of offense, but I wouldn't say that his spring offensively was anything to write home about. But so were Jackson Reeds, and so were Chris Williams. Chris Williams offensively had a little bit of a better spring, but is by far of the three, I think, the worst defender. So Jackson Reeds was for me the only real competition. Jackson Reeds didn't really hit well besides that one Grand Slam. So if you put all those things together, go with the better backup, go with the better defender, and that's Hayden Senger. And we heard on the broadcast, I think Anthony DiComo wrote an article about Hayden Senger, a guy who's still working at Whole Foods in the off season to get some extra money in. So obviously we are rooting for a guy who's been with the organization for, like you said, now 8 years. It's the 8 year that since he's drafted in 2017, uh, stayed as a Met, and now finally is gonna most likely make his major league debut in the next couple of weeks. So good for Hayden.
Yeah, last year for AAA Syracuse, he did have a 724 OPS in 48 games, so that's not a bad number to have. Obviously, it's AAA Major League Baseball, kind of a different animal, but not a terrible offensive season for him, I guess, in the 48 games he had for Syracuse last year. But overall, like you said, when it comes to backup catcher, defense is the most important aspect of that, and he definitely has a reputation of being a very good defensive catcher. So very happy for Hayden Sanger. Yeah, he gets this opportunity. He's going to have to probably get a new jersey. I don't think he's going to want to wear number 98 for his first big league game, but maybe he will. I don't know. Maybe it'll keep him humbled or something. But no, obviously, congratulations to Hayden Sanger. Even though it's not official, it's definitely trending in that direction. So we'll just want to we're very happy for Hayden Sanger, and hopefully he takes advantage of this opportunity. And it's obviously good to have a third catcher on the 40-man roster in case something like whatever happens to Francisco Alvarez happens. So very happy for Hayden Sanger. Now, one of the other competitions that came to fruition due to injury was second base because obviously Jeff McNeil is going to miss opening day. So that created an opportunity for, I guess, a couple of players to get a chance to make the opening day roster, and like we said, reading between the lines, it seems like there is going to be a couple of different bodies we're going to see at second base, both uh, very familiar names to Mets fans, Brett Baty and Luisangel Acuna. Obviously, we know what Brett Baty has done this spring, and that's put up a OPS of a an OPS of one 1.123. That's his OPS. It's over 1,000, 1,123. And he hit another home run, launched one. So Brett Baty certainly seems poised to make this opening day roster, as does Luis Angel Acuna. Now his spring offensive numbers aren't maybe as sexy as Brett Baty, but we know that he's a good defender up the middle. Has that versatility where he can play shortstop as well. Has also gotten some reps at third base. He actually moved to third base late in the game on Saturday. Um, so it seems like they're going to kind of maybe rotate between these two guys. Obviously, a left-hander on the mound, you're probably going to see Acuna. Right-hander, you see Baty, and even if Baty's starting, I would if the Mets have a lead late in the game, I would imagine that you might see Acuna come in for a defensive replacement, or maybe they take Vientos out, move Baty to third, and then have Acuna come play second base. That's also a possibility. But either way, it seems like these two guys are going to be on the opening day roster, and very happy for both those guys, especially Brett, because we are Brett Baty fans, and I know we've seen this story before where he has a great spring and then it doesn't really translate to the regular season. But I believe in our last episode, or either the one of the previous ones we did, you talked about how you think this is a little bit different version of Brett Baty than we've seen in years past. But either way, these guys have earned a spot on the opening day roster, and obviously we're very happy for both of them, and hope the success that they've had or shown in whether it's in spring training or in the big leagues carries over to 2025.
Definitely, and again, the right move. Luckily, it's not Donovan Walden, who people were mentioning. I never really saw that as the option. I think when Beatty showed what he was capable of at second base, I think Beatty not only offensively, he also had a good defensive spring, made a good play at third, but made numerous good plays at second. Uh, Looks comfortable in my opinion, so that's great to see. It's good for Brett Baty to see a little bit of more you know, I forget the word, but more of a utility guy, more flexibility. That's the word I was looking for. And then Acuna, who offensively didn't have to spring like Bailey did. I think it's not not easy to have a spring like Brad Bailey showed, but with Acuna you have different tools where you can use Acuna. If he singles, he can get to second, so his OPS might be a little bit lower, but he could still be a very useful piece um, for this team. So yeah, they're gonna probably platoon, and hopefully they will hold the fort. And one of those guys will probably stay on the roster when Jeff McNeil returns. I think the other guy will probably be optioned back. Right now, my guess is that it will be Brett Baty who stays. If he, it just seems like a whole different guy, and he's so comfortable right now playing a position he isn't as familiar with. I think that really impressed me the most.
Yeah, and you talked about the changes he's made mechanically at the plate. They've also talked about in the broadcast too, where he's on the follow through for his swinging, it's still two hands on the bat, not one. That certainly, at least for spring training anyway, has shown that it's been a good adjustment to his swing. So hopefully, good things for Brett Baty and Luisangel Acuna to begin the season. I know the Mets, like, there was some panic because maybe some people were saying like this is kind of starting to trend like 2023, where these guys they bring in, or they have guys that are getting hurt in spring training, they're missing an extended period of time, blah blah blah. But um, this team is in a totally different position than they were 2 years ago. I think this team has showcased they have depth, quality depth compared to maybe what they had in 2023, where hey, we like Tim LaCastro, but I mean, there's a little bit of a there's a little bit of a difference between a guy like Luis Angel Acuna making the opening day roster compared to a guy like Tim LaCastro. No disrespect to Tim LaCastro, though.
Yeah, the main difference is what we're seeing now is that we see those prospects, talented players in the minors we talked about, getting closer to the major leagues, so they can be a player who can be brought up if needed. And we didn't have that in 2023. I think our uh, farm system was probably one of the worst in the league then. And now we see guys who are not only coming up and taking a spot on the major league roster, being an everyday player like Vientos, like Alvarez when he's healthy, but we also see guys right now coming up who could help if needed. I think we can mention Drew Gilbert in if he's healthy in that position this year when an outfielder is needed and we need a starting outfielder. You could see Drew Gilbert. You could see maybe Jet Williams if he has a good start of the season, and that's what the Mets were trying to do. We also see it with pitching, by the way. I mean, Titwell is close, and Brandon Sproat is close, so it's not like right now this team. There's if there is a need for a player coming from the minor leagues, it's not necessarily that Ben Gamel types, the Travis Jankowski types, whatever. You can if they play well, but that's always the question. If they play well, Joey Lucchesi was a guy who over the last several years was that depth guy, depth arm, and now if there's a need for starting pitching, you probably see one of those young guys get a shot. So that's what the organization wanted. So not only getting good depth in free agency, but also getting depth because of your young guys getting closer.
Yeah, obviously when you have the homegrown talent that is so close, very close to being major league ready, then it kind of eliminates some of the needs to bring in those names that you mentioned, like a Ben Gamble, Travis Jankowski, guys like that. Some guys that have officially made the opening day roster via Carlos Mendoza, also via Will Salmon of the Athletic. I'm looking at his Twitter. We talk about, DeComo probably being the cream of the crop when it comes to Mets coverage. I put Will Salmon right up there as well. I think he does a tremendous job. Reed Garrett, Jose Buto, and Danny Young have all made the opening day roster. Some guys who didn't that were kind of close were Chris Davinsky, Jackson Reeds that we talked about, Hennessy Cabrera, Don Walton. They are not going to be with the team on opening day. They're going to head to Syracuse. Jose Urania, who had an opt out in his deal he signed with the Mets just a couple weeks ago. He did not make the opening day roster, but he is not going to opt out. He is going to go to Syracuse, so that's some very good pitching depth for the Mets. Also, another depth move. It's a familiar face for Mets fans. Billy McKinney is back in the organization. He signed a minor league deal, so some outfield depth in AAA. Uh, so Mets just adding more depth, like we talked about, and it's quality depth. And I like we just what we were just talking about for a couple minutes. That's where the key difference is from teams past to now. The depth, whether it's homegrown talent or some of these guys they're bringing in, it's guys you feel comfortable with if you need to plug and play them.
Yeah, with all due respect, I hope we don't see Billy McKinney. I think for the organization,
Of course, but
it's better if we need one if it's Drew Gilbert or Jet Williams and not Billy McKinney, for the reason I just mentioned. But it's never wrong to get a guy like that in your organization. But I hope he, not no disrespect to Billy McKinney, but he was a solid Met in his first try. But
his
right
first
now,
tenure,
yeah,
yeah.
that was again. I have a bad doing bad with my words today. So, but yeah, it's all solid depth. Chris Stefanski, I thought looked pretty good this spring, using the changeup more, kind of like the Tommy Kahnle way, where you almost exclusively go with the changeup. So, but yeah, he was obviously he was a guy from the outside looking in. Danny Young makes the team. One name that wasn't mentioned as making part of the team is Max Kranick, which I'm a little bit surprised of. I understand it's probably more the roster, having options decision with having Danny Young. I don't think Danny Young looked that great this spring, and he was also iffy in the second half last year. Um, it's maybe also the question if AJ Minter is ready, that Danny Young is now making the team. But I was a little bit surprised that Danny Young for right now is above Max Kranick.
Yeah, Max Kranick, that's been one of the best maybe spring training stories of this season. Obviously a Met fan. That's pretty been it's been documented well that he's a Mets fan growing up. If he's a guy that can make this opening day roster, that'd be great because he can give you length out of the bullpen. So obviously that would be very welcome. Though we're obviously pulling for Max Kranick. He's well deserving of the roster spot, but like you said, sometimes it's an options game at the major league levels. But there's certainly if he doesn't make the opening day roster, he's certainly put himself in a spot where he's like one of the first guys that's going to get the phone call if someone goes down. So that's obviously good for him, but I'm sure he would much rather be traveling to Houston in late March rather than Syracuse. A little bit of a different, little bit different weather in both those places.
Mm.
But you mentioned AJ Minter, who pitched yesterday for the Mets and had a 1-2-3 inning. They asked Carlos Mendoza. This is from Anthony DeComo on his Twitter. Uh, Carlos Mendoza indicated that Minter is going to pitch one more time. Looks like it's going to be Monday, obviously. You're not going to pitch in back-to-back days right now. And if he comes out of that without any issues, then he might be on the opening day roster. There's a good chance of that, which would obviously be great. If obviously because Minter had the hip surgery last year, and There was maybe some discussion if he was going to even be ready for opening day, but if AJ Minter's in the bullpen on opening day, that's obviously a great sign for the Mets.
Yeah, definitely. He looked good. He looked good yesterday. So uh, obviously, we hope he makes at least a big part of this bullpen. And that would probably mean that Max Granning doesn't make it, but we'll see. So yeah, with I'm a little bit shocked that they already gave Danny Young, but like I said, it's probably the option. Danny Young is out of options. I probably wanted to keep him around, and so he makes the squad over Max Granning with having an option. That's sometimes how it works, but in my honest opinion, I would rather have seen Max Granning make that get that roster spot instead of Danny Young.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you with that, but maybe they kind of like the having the two lefty thing. I know that's kind of a big topic too, so we'll see. I mean, like we said, Max Kranick has at least put himself in a very good position, kind of like how Denell Nunez did last
Right.
year, where it was a guy that was coming over from minor. I know Kranick was in big league camp, and Nunez wasn't last year, but um, a guy that showcased his stuff in spring training. Obviously, got off to a good start down in AAA Syracuse, and what it was like what mid-April he was already up with the team when they needed arms and whatnot. So it was pretty early in the season. I feel like,
Yeah.
but maybe that's going to be the Max Crank is going to be the 2025 Deadnell Nunez. Who knows? But obviously, we'd like to see Max Crank make the opening day roster for the Mets. But like we said, it's a numbers game and an options game at the big league level. Um, so we're going to go from a Mets perspective to league wide, and this could be kind of lengthy. So we're going to try to do our best to condense it. There's a good word for today, condense. We're going to give our 2025 projections for Major League Baseball this year because it's probably going to be our last episode before opening day. We'll obviously get back into our routine or try to get back into our routine of at the end of every series. Now, sometimes life gets in the way, but we're going to do our best. So let's get our 2025 projections out right now. And what we're going to do, at least how I constructed mine, is division like how the divisions are going to shake out. So I think we should start in the AL. I think we'll save the NL East for last. I think that to keep people hanging on. That's smart like that. So let's start in the American League East, and because I'm such a gentleman, I'm going to let you go first. How do you see the American
Well,
League East shaping out this year?
probably my most surprising um, division I have. I have the Red Sox winning the AL East. Uh, and seeing your response is probably the same for you because you wanted to be a little bit surprising to have we got the same. That's probably gonna happen more often. After Orioles second, the Yankees third. I think the Yankees having a difficult season in a still pretty decent division with their pitching, with their ace gone. I think the lineup, obviously, without Soto, is not as great. I think they have some guys in that lineup that they hope they will be better, but I doubt it. So the Yankees third, the Rays fourth, and the Blue Jays fifth.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same. The only difference is I have the Yankees second and the Orioles third. I also had the Red Sox winning the division. That's a team as we go through this, you're going to see I'm very high on the Boston Red Sox this year. So I too have the Red Sox finishing first, Yankees second, Orioles third, Rays fourth, and the Jays fifth. So we're pretty similar in the most part for that one. So let's move on to an interesting division just because a lot of teams seem very similar, at least the four of the five anyway. Um, the American League Central. So I will go first with this one. I have the Royals winning the AL Central this year. I like they have arguably the best all around player in the game, Bobby Witt Jr. I think Cleveland is going to finish second. I got Detroit in third, Minnesota fourth, and of course the Chicago White Sox are going to be nice at home in the fifth spot in that division.
I have completely the same.
Okay,
One true plan.
then we don't have to spend much time on the American League Central. So let's move on to the AL West. This could be a little bit more of an interesting one. So how do you see the AL West shaking out this year?
I still think it's the Astros winning. Have the Athletics at second, Rangers third, Mariners. Beside their great pitching, they just can't hit every year, so probably gonna continue because I don't see a lot of additions they made to really bolster that lineup this year. And I have the Angels fifth.
So we'll be a little bit different in this one. We kind of mixing and matching here in the AL West. I got the Rangers finishing first.
Mm.
I got the Astros finishing second. I'd have Seattle third, despite their maybe lack of offense. The pitching is just so good, and you know how we're similar. We love pitching. So I had the Mariners finishing third. I had the A's fourth, and the Angels fifth. Did you indicate any like which teams would be the wild cards in the AL? Did you do that?
We did a playoff thing, so yes, I did have a couple of wild cards.
Okay, I'll share. I'll share. I'll go first with the wild cards. I have the Yankees getting the wild card. I have the Astros getting the wild card, and I do have the Mariners getting the wild card just because of their pitching.
I have the Yankees getting a wild card, the Orioles getting a wild card, and the Athletics getting a wild card. Because I truly believe in the Oakland Athletics. I think they have a sneaky, good young team there.
Yeah, their lineup in the second half last year was very
Exactly.
good, led by Brent Rooker, who could be a sneaky AL MVP candidate.
Yeah, Lawrence Butler is very good. JJ Bleday had a very good year there. Their pitching, I think, is also pretty underrated. They have some solid starting pitchers there, so I really think they're going to surprise people.
Yeah, that could be the case. So it'll be very interesting to see the A's in Sacramento this year. So
Yeah,
let's move on from the AL to the NL. Like we said, we're going to say the NL East for last. So we'll start in the NL Central. What do you think of the NL Central this year?
I have the Cubs first. I think they are the best team in a very weak division, by the way. I have the Brewers second, and they won last year. Never count out the Brewers in that NL Central. I have the Reds third. I have the Pirates again. Besides great pitching, they didn't do enough uh, for that lineup to be relevant in that division. I have the Cardinals last.
Yeah, we're similar. I just switched the Pirates and the Reds. I got the Pirates third and the Reds fourth. I do think the Cubs win that division. I got burned last year by the Brewers. I predicted them to finish last year, and that did not come to fruition whatsoever. So I will stick with the Brewers finishing second, so they'll finish in the top half and have the Cardinals finishing last. So now that means the Cardinals are probably going to have a really good year based on what Milwaukee did last year.
I highly doubt that.
Yeah, they're in a little bit of a different spot to say the least.
Yeah, they're on good.
All right, the NL West. I think this is pretty straightforward for division winner. Then I think after that it could get a little interesting. So I have the Dodgers finishing first, shocker. I do have the Padres finishing second, D-backs third, Giants fourth, and the Rockies fifth. So I think that's pretty much how the NL West went last year as well. So that's what I
I've
got.
one I've one slight change. I think the Diamondbacks will be second and the Padres will be third.
I thought about it. I was like, but I guess I'm just going to go based on, you know, I don't know if pedigree is the right word or whatnot, but I thought about it. It was close. It was really close, but I ended up sticking with the Padres for second in the NL West. All right.
Do you also have the Wild Card Series, DS Series, and Championship Series?
Yes. Yeah, I got all of that.
All right,
So,
cool.
who do you think you're talking to? This is a real professional podcast. We don't just
Yeah, yeah,
dilly dally here.
very true, Andrew. Sorry about that.
All right. The National League East. What do you think of the
Oh,
National League East?
unfortunately, I have the Braves winning the National League East. I think they are just still too good. That if Spencer Strider comes back, if Ronald Acuna Jr. comes back, they still have Chris Sale. They have a lot of good pitching, but they also still have a pretty decent offense. So it's not like the Mariners that they have nothing. So I still think the Braves will win the National League East. I think the Mets will finish second, the Phillies third, the Nets fourth, and the Marlins fifth. I think that is a surprise. I think the Mets will be better than the Phillies. Besides the Phillies pitching, I think the Mets have a far better um, lineup than the Phillies, and I also think the Mets can get more out of their starting pitching than people expect. So I think it's going to be between the Braves and the Mets who will win. I think the Braves are slightly better than the Mets.
I think the National League East is going to shake out just like it did last year. I got the Phillies winning the division. I got the Braves second. I have the Mets third, Washington fourth, and the Marlins fifth. I think I just look I just look at those that Phillies team with their pitching, like you talked about. It's so good. Atlanta in that ballpark, the ball flies. They're a pretty good offense. Some guys had some down years last year, but um, I think it's a pretty good offensive team. I think you're going to win a lot of games, like 7-5 and stuff like that. So, and that could be the same for the Mets. No, they have a very, if, on paper anyway, it's a pretty good offensive team. Maybe some question marks with the rotation and whatnot. Um, but I do have the Mets getting a wild card spot. They're one of my wild card teams. My other wild card team is Atlanta, and the other one is San Diego. So, same wild card teams as last year.
I have Diamondbacks, Phillies, and Mets as wildcard teams.
All right, so let's move over to the playoffs, the AL wildcard based on our projections. Or what is your AL wildcard series looking like?
I have the Astros beating the Yankees, and I have the Orioles beating the Athletics. The Orioles going to win a postseason game. That's the big news there.
That's the big one there. I too have the Astros over the Yankees, and I have the Mariners over the Royals.
Mm. Oh, that's interesting.
So, National League wild card, I have the Padres over the Cubs, and I have the Mets over the Braves.
I have the Mets over the Diamondbacks, and I have the Phillies over the Cubs.
All right. Moving on to the American League Division Series. How's that looking for you?
I have the Royals over the Astros, and I have the Red Sox over the Orioles.
I got the Rangers over the Mariners, and got the Red Sox over the Astros. On the National League side of things, I have the Phillies over the Padres and the Dodgers over the Mets.
I have the Mets over the Braves, and I have the Dodgers over the Phillies.
All right.
And ALCS, moving on, I have the Royals over the Red Sox.
I have the Red Sox over the Rangers. In the National League, I have the Phillies over the Dodgers.
No, I'm going to stay with the Dodgers over the Mets, unfortunately. So yeah, it's I can't bet against the Dodgers. I badly wanted to. I put other teams above it many times, but at the end, I just think the Dodgers are too good.
Mm.
Unfortunately, I hate to say it, but
What is your World Series prediction for 2025? This is a big one.
it's the Dodgers over the Royals.
Dodgers
I
over the
think I think the I think the National League is far superior. So I think who wins the National League also wins the World Series, just like last year.
I agree. Whoever wins the National League wins the World Series. So for me, I had the Phillies. I got the Phillies over the Red Sox in the World Series. How about your American League MVP?
Well, the Royals are going all the way to the World Series, so it's the best player from the Royals. It's Bobby Witt Jr.
I also had Bobby Witt Jr. for my AL MVP. Now, AL Cy Young. This could be the field for this is a little bit more wide open than the National League one to me. As I think you'll find out when we get to our National League Cy Young Award winners. But who do you have winning the AL Cy Young?
I have the Astros Hunter Brown. After the All-Star break last year, the 2.26 ERA over 12 starts elite. And if you look at his baseball savant page, he's elite at getting soft contact. So I think Hunter Brown is going to put it all together and win an AL Cy Young award.
I like that pick, mostly because Hunter Brown is on my fantasy team, I believe, if my memory serves me right. So if Hunter Brown is when
Don't talk about the fantasy team because that went all wrong for me with me
ah,
not hearing my alarm clock and being too late for the draft.
well, I too have a AL West pitcher winning the American League Cy Young. I went with Logan Gilbert on the Mariners. I think this is a guy who's starting to get some recognition league wide about how good he is, and like we talked about, the Mariners pitching staff is really, really good. I think he's the best of the bunch. I think he's going to have a really good year. I'm going to go with Logan Gilbert for the American League Cy Young. National League MVP. Who do you got?
I'm going with the best hitter in the National League East, and that's Juan Soto. The Mets are finally getting a first MVP winner, and he's, in my opinion, a better hitter than Shohei Ohtani. And I have a gut feeling that the pitching that Shohei Ohtani will show will be less than many expect, and I also think that will temper his hitting abilities a little bit.
I like that pick. Obviously, if that happens, I would be very happy. It'd be cool to see the Mets get their first MVP. My MVP winner is also from the National League. He's won it a couple times. I went with Bryce Harper on the Phillies. You asked me this 10 years ago, teenage Andrew, he would probably not be very happy with older Andrew picking Bryce Harper. But as I've grown older, I've come to respect Bryce Harper a lot more as a ball player. I kind of put some of the shenanigans aside. The dude is really good, and he scares me every time he comes up. And in playing half a season in that ballpark, he puts up monster numbers. I think Bryce Harper is going to win the National League MVP.
Yeah, well, I want to just touch on Bryce Harper for a little bit. Bryce Harper is also matured himself, and he's an extremely good dude. Honestly, I think the narrative of him being a kind of douchey player is a little bit old. I think he's a good player to have in the MLB. The way he talks has matured a lot since he came up, and I mean also logically so. He came up so young. He was a superstar from the moment he was drafted. So it's tough to not be arrogant when uh, everything goes your way in one of the biggest sports in America. So, but he's becoming a good dude, a fun dude. So, um, kudos for Bryce Harper for not only being a very very good ball player, but also being I mean a good poster boy is if that's not really because Shohei Ohtani is our poster boy, but I rather see Bryce Harper be our poster boy than Shohei Ohtani right now.
Yeah, I definitely, like I said, I come to respect Bryce Harper as he's gotten older, and um, I think the only bad thing about Bryce Harper is that he's an Ohio State fan, so I got to really look past that. Um, but National League
And
Cy
he's a
Young,
Philly. And
Phil,
he's a
and
Philly.
he's a
That's
Philly.
still a bad
Yeah,
thing.
that's still not great, I guess. And now he roots for the Eagles too. I don't know, but anyway, he's a great ball player. So it's going with.
Definitely.
So my prediction is he'll win his third National League MVP. Hopefully, he does more of his damage like against the Braves, the Nationals, the Marlins, and not as much against the Mets. But we can only do so
He's
much.
going to hit some home runs against us. That's
Oh
no
yeah,
doubt about
no doubt about
it.
that. All right, National League Cy Young. I think this is pretty. This is probably the most straightforward answer we could give. Like, I think this is going to be kind of obvious. The guy was a nominee last year. Um, you could argue maybe should have won. Um, I'm going with Paul Skeens on the Pirates.
I think Chris Hill should have won, but yeah, Paul Skeens is probably the guy. I also have Paul Skeens, although I did debate Zach Wheeler because he's a little bit of an underrated arm in the National League. He always puts up a lot of innings. He's a bulldog, and he never won a Cy Young. So I almost went with our old friend Zach Wheeler, but yeah, Boskin's just too good to not put his name on that spot.
Yeah, I think this is going to be the first of many Cy Youngs Paul Skeens is going to win in his major league career. So these are our predictions for the 2025 Major League Baseball season that kicks off on Thursday. Well, I guess technically it's already kicked off, but I don't count those stupid games in Tokyo. But no, that's just me. Um, anyway,
Dodgers are 2-0, Andrew. Still in the standings.
the Cubs are 0-2. Yeah,
Yeah.
we don't need to get into that. That would really extend the episodes. If we were discussing that. So
Mostly because you will talk.
yeah, it's mostly because I would be talking. So let's say the Mets season kicks off on Thursday, or everyone else's season kicks off on Thursday. So this is
Not
our
the
first.
Dodgers in the Cubs.
Yeah, I hate you. Anyway, I hate you. Uh, so this is going to be our first look ahead of the 2025 season. The Mets have a 3-game series in Houston to begin their 2025 season. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. There is no Sunday game. I don't know why. I didn't make the schedule. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, the Mets and the Houston Astros will begin their seasons. And we know the opening day starter. The opening day matchup is going to be Clay Holmes for the Mets going up against Framber Valdez of the Astros. It's TBD for game two. MLB.com does have Griffin Canning pitching game three of that series for the Mets, and kind of the way that if you've seen how the rotation's kind of shaken out a little bit the last couple of days, I think that's probably fair to say. So you could probably maybe assume Tyler McGill would get the start on Saturday. I know they're still kind of going back and forth between McGill and Blackburn, but I think McGill probably has the upper hand over Paul Blackburn. So we'll say Holmes, McGill, Canning for the Mets to begin the season. And I think a lot of people would be, if you told them that back in January, I think they'd be kind of shocked by that. But that's just how the cookie crumbles sometimes. So now with that, we're going to move to our first 2025 Players of the Series prediction. I already know who you're going to pick, so I'm going to give you the floor. You get to go first with the pitcher because we are a pitching podcast.
Yeah, well, I have to go with the guy I said before after we sign him. It's gonna be, what did I say, Andrew? It's gonna be the
Steal of the
steal of the
offseason.
season. Yes, and so far so good. So yeah, I can bet against Clay Holmes having a good opening day, and the guy's been money in this spring. That kick changeup is absolutely filthy. He looks like a starter right now. Went 5 1/3 innings in his last outing. I think he threw 88 pitches, so he's ready for it, and I think he's going to pitch a really good ball game in Houston.
I'm also going to go with the new Met for the offense. This guy is probably he could become one of my favorite players for multiple reasons. But watching him track down fly balls is so fun. This guy's also a former Houston Astros, so let's begin the season off on a really good start against your former club. I'm going to go with Jose Siri to have a good series against the Houston Astros. I'm going to predict he launches one onto the train tracks at what
On
is
the tree.
formerly Minute Maid Park. I know they changed it. So I think he's going to launch one, and I think he's going to pimp the you know what out of it. It's going to piss a lot of Astro fans off. And Jose Siri says, "Well, you could have kept me, but you didn't want me." So Jose Siri is going to have a great series against the Astros.
Bold prediction. I like it. I like it. Jose Siri. We know he can connect. It just doesn't happen a lot.
You only need it to happen once.
Yes, yes. If he has one home run in this series and strikes out all the other at bats, I will give it to you,
All right,
Andrew.
sounds good. And I mean, but seriously, like we talked about, like not to keep the show going longer. Watching him track down fly balls that look like that they're just for sure in the gap. He runs them down. He makes it look so smooth. And I love Tyrone Taylor. And Tyrone Taylor is a very good defender too, but Jose Siri is like great closing speed. It's like, wow, this guy is going to save a lot of base hits for his pitching staff.
Yes. So the Mets have a decision to make who plays center field every day, and I think it's mostly uh, who is on the mound. If you have Clay Holmes on the mound, who's more of a ground ball pitcher, maybe you go with a little better bat, a little better overall bat in Tyrone Taylor. But if you have a guy on the mound who pitches a little bit contact, also a little bit more in the air, or is maybe a little bit more iffy, a guy like Griffin Canning comes to mind to me. I think you have to play Jose Siri. And Jose Siri also helps Juan Soto in right field because Jose Siri has so much range. He yesterday made a play, I think in the fourth or fifth inning, which, like you said, made it look easy. He's Juan Lagares, and Juan Lagares with a little bit more power, but a lot of more strikeouts in his at bats. Juan Lagares was a far better contact hitter. So, and Juan Lagares was a good player for us. So I think Jose Siri, if he bats just a little bit, if his offense is just a little bit there, uh, we're definitely gonna see Jose Siri get the bulk of the playing time. And that's no disrespect to Tyrone Taylor, but like you said, the defense is such a game changer for Jose Siri, and it helps the rest of the outfield so much with a Brandon Nimmo who is a who can be a good outfielder, but we know he had his issues with the legs last year. Now in this spring, he had some issues with the knees, if I'm correct.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the other hand, you have Juan Soto, who is just not a good outfielder. We know that he's a great hitter, he's just not a good outfielder. So having a tremendous center fielder who goes gap to gap so well and back on ball so well as Jose Siri, also had a very good arm, by the way, is a game changer for this team.
Yeah, no doubt about that. I think, like I said, he might, for other reasons, he might become one of my favorite players on this team. I think it's going to give a little bit of that.
You should buy a Jose Siri jersey.
Yeah, maybe I should. Maybe I should. Don't twist my arm. Uh, but I think with guys like him, Jesse Winker, they got a little bit of swag, they got a little bit of attitude, some maybe if you want to call it cockiness, that's fine too. It gives a little bit, not maybe not in the same level, but a little bit 86 Mets kind of thing. I think they need to have a little bit of that. I think it can make the season interesting in more ways than one. And before we get out of here, before we wrap things up, we have a very special announcement. We have our first ticket giveaway of the season. So you're going to go to our social media, Facebook, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, Elon's website. You're going to find the picture, the graphic, to win 2 tickets to go see the Mets play the Marlins on Tuesday, April 8th at Citi Field. All you got to do is you got to be following us, and you got to like the post, and you got to comment why we should pick you. That's all you got to do. You got to be following us, like the post, comment why we should pick you. We will contact winners. This is going to be the first of a few we're going to do throughout the 2025 season, but only participate if you can actually go to the game. Don't just take the tickets and then resell and try to make some money. Like, that's not cool. Don't do that. And these are my tickets too, so they're my seats. So please be respectful. I'm also going to put that out there as well. So, but go to Facebook, Facebook or Twitter, X, Elon's website. Like, follow us, like the post, comment why we should pick you. It's just that simple. No buy-in, no nothing. You win 2 free tickets. That's all you gotta do. Because we're nice people. We want you to enjoy Citi Field.
We are all right. We are all right people. I wouldn't characterize us.
You're not going to go that far?
No.
Okay. You won't go that far. I will. I'm going to have a little bit of that Jose Siri, Jesse Winker kind of,
You can see Jose Siri and Jesse Winker live.
There we go.
In the flesh, if you win 2 tickets to the Mets and Marlins game on April 8th, if I remember correctly, that you said April 8th.
Yep.
So that's something you want. That's something you want.
Exactly.
That's something you need as Mets fans. We have Juan Soto in right field.
It's right.
Come on, guy. Get to Citi Field. As Steve Cohen said, he was disappointed with attendance last year. We can't have that again.
We're doing our part. We're trying to get people to go. We're doing our part, Steve. We're trying to help the team out the best we can.
Well, you already bought tickets, so we're not necessarily trying to help out because he hopes that you are in the stand that the people who win it will buy their own tickets.
Well, I guess that's true. Anyway, but I think we'll wrap it up here.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just thinking we're going to wrap up the show here. Opening day is this Thursday. We're very much looking forward to it. I already took the day off from work, so we're going to be good to go for that. Cornet, thank you for joining us, and hope you enjoy the first series of the 2025 season.
Yeah, I will head to my fellow Dutch friend, who, if he's listened, very excited to watch a baseball game, to watch opening day with another Mets fan in this country. So looking forward to it.
All right. This has been episode number 62 of the Queen's Connection. Make sure to like and subscribe wherever you listen on Spotify or YouTube. And also go follow us on social media to win some tickets. Facebook, Twitter, X, Elon's website, whatever you call it. Like, follow us, and all that good stuff. So thank you so much for listening, and we will talk to you after the first series of the 2025 season.